Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Dietitian Insights podcast show. I'm your guest, Rashonda Thornton. I have a guest today. I want to introduce you to. Her name is Taylor Kiser. She also is a dietitian and has a completely different realm in which she works in. It's really focused on fitness and faith and just kind of what does this mean to you as far as your reasoning for living a healthy life. Before I do that, there's a topic that I want to bring to the surface. And it's all centered around my Play to Win book that you guys may have heard about, called Play to Win Your Food Fight. Again, it's a book that's just really built to help you create life-changing ways and perspective you live through life when it comes to your nutrition. So you always not live a life where you're fighting food. And one of the things that when it comes to fighting food or fighting our weight is that, let's say perhaps you did lose that 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds. You lost it, which is great, and you should commend yourself. But what happens and what are you doing to make sure to keep it off? A lot of times when we are thriving to change our body composition or just our health, we just feel like we have to jump all in. We have to put 110% behind it. We have to tear the wall down with a bulldozer. And once we get to the other side, which is that body size that we're thriving for, we feel exhausted, we feel tired, and we feel like we won, but it took a lot of work to get there. And then you kind of get burnt out. And so unfortunately, what ends up happening a lot of times with people is that when they get to that particular weight, they struggle for forever to not go back. So now think about it. Now that you lost it, how do you keep it off? Well, as a dietitian, I'm always about, making sure that no matter what we do for our body, it's built on health. It's built on taking care of ourselves when it comes to what we put in our bodies. So if you found that it was difficult to lose a certain amount of weight, or you really had to kind of eliminate a lot of certain foods, and you just don't see how the heck you can live your life eating those types of ways, start switching the way you start thinking and what it means to keep that weight off. It really is understanding what it took you to lose it. Sometimes it is what it takes to keep it off, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Let's just create a scenario, because that's how you can really relate to the conversation. Let's say, you have worked your whole 2 or 3 years and you finally got the 40 pounds off and you don't want to feel like you're walking on ice. Well, how do you keep it off? Well, the first thing is that you can't stay in that same mindset of, if I am going to keep the weight, I can't have this. If I am going to keep the weight, I have to burn these many calories. We got to separate ourselves from these structures, because these structures, to me, they're like a ball and chain. They're what's really dragging us from actually living life. So we got to stop thinking of the way of, in order for me to keep this off me, I have to keep taking it away. Switch it up and think about, in order for me to keep it off, I have to give my body what it needs to keep it off. And what your body needs is nutrients that comes in the form of, as we all know, you've heard me say it, I'm a dietitian. It comes from just making sure you're getting those vitamins and minerals from your fruits and your vegetables. And vitamins and minerals is a big deal. We just kind of overlook it because we feel like we always have to count calories and that's what really matters. Well, all of those little pieces of those micronutrients, those minerals, those vitamins that you glean from your fruits and vegetables, those all contribute to how your body processes, how your body increases metabolism, how your body can optimally work at its highest level, because you're feeding those cells. Those cells turn into tissues, so tissues turns into organs, the organs turn into you. So when you're bringing in those vitamins and nutrients, you're changing the inner making of your body, you're changing the environment of your body, and you're giving it the most efficient and effective way to live healthy. So that's number one, is making sure you're getting those nutrients in. When it comes to your other pieces, like the bigger fish, like the macronutrients that we all know, we kind of always feel like it's a algebra equation to figure out how to stay lean. It's all about balance, make sure that you are getting a good amount of lean protein, animal-based or non-animal-based. The key is lean. Make sure you're keeping your meat, your animal proteins lean, and you're keeping a consistency of intake of protein sources throughout your day. Animal protein sources obviously is one. You have your dairy protein sources. You have some of your non-meat protein sources like tofu, soybeans, edamame, your lentils and beans. Those are great options for good lean protein sources. Balance that off. balance it off with carbohydrates that actually are full of fiber. Instead of grabbing that white bread, grab a whole grain piece of bread. Grab a piece of fruit instead of grabbing, if you don't want to go for bread or starch, just grab a piece of fruit. Grab some sort of carbohydrate that's going to give you more so nutrients, not just calories. So you're actually getting in something great while you're bringing in those calories. Focus on making sure that they're all clean. And then the last macronutrient is your fats. It's all about your health. Our body doesn't process fat as quickly as it processes carbohydrates and proteins. So make sure you're getting the amount of fat that your body needs so it can continue to move around the processes inside your body internally and physiologically. Not enough so it's going to overflow and turn into stored energy, which is fat. That's how we kind of gain weight. So making sure you have a balanced meal, every meal that you have, you want to make sure you incorporate that. That's how you're going to keep that weight off. And last but not least, you want to mimic your metabolism. I'm sure people that know me have always heard me say that. Your metabolism is highest in the day, lowest in the night. So if you eat according to your metabolism, you're able to give your body everything it needs and its ability to burn it off at the rate that it can. So eat a heavy dinner when your metabolism is the lowest. Well, your body cannot physically burn off those calories. You're not going to work out after you eat dinner like you're going to sleep, which means your body is not going to be efficient in burning calories. So making sure that your dinner is pretty lean so that your body doesn't have excess material or calories that is going to create stored energy or stored fat. So making sure you have a good breakfast, have your snacks in between, medium-sized lunch, and then you have your dinner. If you're eating throughout the day, you're kind of feeding the furnace as far as your metabolism, and you're not going to be so full at nighttime. So that's going to be key to how you're going to keep this weight off. And of course, staying active. So find your balance. Once you do get there, let's learn how to stay there. And staying there doesn't mean that you have to continually walk on ice. It's being particular and intentional in your choices, and make sure you're giving yourself nutrients, not just calories. So hope that give you some ideas, some ways that how you can live that life successfully and not feel like every bite is something that's going to take you one direction to the other. You can live a life of happiness and peace by making sure that you're bringing in balance with your nutrition and with your foods. So great information as always. Take that on, pass it on to someone. Someone needs to hear it. Someone needs to implement it into their life so they can learn how to live a life of freedom. Before I introduce Taylor to you guys, I want to introduce you to Undeniably Dairy. Now, we know Undeniably Dairy is all about the dairy products, dairy goods. They really have been playing a significant role when it comes to our children right now, especially during the COVID, the summertime, when some kids are not getting the nutrients that they need, which makes them more susceptible, more vulnerable to being sick or to being ill. So we want to make sure that the Undeniably Dairy has really worked hard to suffice those needs that those kids need when it comes to those nutrients. Want to help them to develop strong and healthy bodies. Their bodies are constantly growing. When the children have regular access to nutritional meals, especially breakfast, research shows there's a connection to better performance in school, which is huge. So I'm not sure if you ever heard of Fuel Up Play 60. Well, it's actually a campaign where the National Dairy Council is a partner of, which shows the importance of nutrient-rich foods and regular physical activity for all kids. This helps to alleviate hunger, it fosters growth and development, and support learning. Learn more about what Fuel Up and Play 60 really means. I'm sure it's in your local schools, and learn how the Dairy Council has really came and partnered with this particular organization to help our kids. Go to the website at www.dairygood.org or find them on Instagram at dairygood. Hope you enjoyed this conversation with Taylor. Hey everyone, welcome to Rashonda. Welcome to the Dietitian Gets Diets podcast show. This is Rashonda. I want to introduce to my guest, Taylor Kiser, today. One of the reasons she's on this podcast because from what I learned about her, her and I actually have a lot of things in common in regards to our approach, the underneath component of why we do what we do. But before I let her give her the microphone, I want to introduce you real quick to some of her work. So she is the owner of Food, Faith, and Fitness, which is also, she's also known for her blogging. She does a lot of blogging and use that platform as well. She does a lot in regards to food. She does recipe development. She has a book, and I love the title. The title is called Eat the Cookie. The Imperfectionist Guide to Food, Faith, and Fitness. So if that doesn't give you any insight of her personality, I'm sure take a read at the book, and I'm sure it will. But one thing I know for for sure about her that she believes in living a balanced life with Christ at the center. And so for myself personally, as a Christian woman, I know that's a very important in my life, and that's actually kind of things I instill with my clients as well. But I want to say, Taylor, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. So tell me, where are you coming from?
I am in just north of Seattle, Washington.
Ah, okay. How's the weather up there? It should be pretty
Actually
nice.
Been beautiful. Yeah. I mean, usually it's rainy, but it's been nice lately.
Yeah, well, that's cool. We're in here in St. Louis, and we're hitting about 90 to 90,
I just moved
95.
from Springfield, Missouri, so I know, I know
a little familiar.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, I'm glad, hello from St. Louis to Seattle. So, one of the things that, your title is something that it just kind of tells people from the get-go where you stand. Give us a little insight of why you use those three words as what represents your company and what represents you.
Yeah, so I just think that to me, they're just the most important things to living a full, healthy, balanced life. We have to look at our food, of course, not get obsessive about it, but what we're eating, then fitness, of course, just moving our bodies, I think is important in a non-obsessive way. But the most important thing is faith. I think that we have to look at our faith as a Christian woman. And when our faith is out of whack, and I feel like our whole health is out of whack, our body's out of whack, our mind's out of whack. So I just really think that those big F's are kind of the things that we need to focus on to really have like an authentically, fully healthy Christ beyond just what we're eating or how we're moving our bodies.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And I think a lot of times we don't put in consideration some of those pillars that's needed. We try to just put all our energy into one and think that the other ones are just going to find its way, and if you don't find balance, something's bound to implode or,
Yes.
overcorrect or something. So, for you to come to that as far as your branding and your company, what personal story do you have attached to that? Because it has to come from somewhere.
Yeah, so actually when I was 13, so almost 17 years ago now, I had anorexia and I was hospitalized and actually told I was going to die. So when you're 13 and you hear that, it's a little bit of a wake-up call. I didn't want to die at 13. So just like a long story short, just really had to go through overcoming that and really, rooting myself in Christ to overcome that, because I don't believe that as a Christian woman we can without having some kind of faith. And really finding my path to, like I said, having that faith walk, but also kind of viewing food and fitness as it's important, but not, to the point where it overtakes your life and it pulls you away from God, becomes an idol, and has you going down to this dark place like I did. So just really, overcoming that and just kind of walking and navigating through how I can truly find balance with my food, faith, and fitness journey.
Yeah, I mean, that's to give you the reason why, when you're saying that, it's so important, and I think people don't connect, Yeah, I truly believe, that we look at what we put in our body as just like a tool. We don't connect to how we treat our body. If we don't understand how to love our body or what our body represents, we're always going to aimlessly just jump on whatever idea happens that sounds good. My nutrition company is called Better Vessel. And it's the premise of our body is our vessel. How can we best serve God by, best taking care of it? And it's the idea of, using, nutrition as a way to better this vessel. It's the idea of using, our wellness as a way to better this vessel. And for me, it creates a full circle concept, because if you learn to better yourself and bring in all these components to better this vessel, it allows you to be a better vessel in every area of your life, and looking at God as your number one reason. We're stewards over his work, and how can we best take care of what he's given us. To me, it just makes sense, So like when you were talking about your faith and like where it aligns with everything you're doing and how it's connected to your body, and not letting all your energy go into the body part, taken away from the foundation. I think that's important, and it's a good thing for people to really learn how to connect that,
Yeah, I think so many people, like you said, they're just looking at their food or their exercise, and they're just missing this huge pillar that is really what centers it all and what makes it sustainable and lasting and truly healthy.
Yeah, and you said that you had to, during your time when you were younger, that's what got you through.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like, I mean, when I was in the hospital, I wasn't allowed to do anything. Like, I wasn't even allowed to get up to go to the bathroom. So all I could do was read the Bible and just really learning what God says about me and like really understanding that he's saying it to me. Because I think so many women and men too read the Bible and they go, oh, that's, when God says you're fearfully and wonderfully made, that's nice, but maybe that's for someone else. But really learning and understanding that he's speaking to you is really what kind of centered me in the way he sees me and allowed me to overcome.
Yeah. Another piece that when I work with clients is teaching them to love yourself. Because if you love yourself, then everything, to me, that's what guides you through your choices and your decisions, because you love yourself and you believe you deserve it, and when you, again, the behind the scenes, we know that, we are loved. God is love. We are loved. And he shows that to us by being merciful and putting us in places where, we learn and we grow. And so, again, it's that idea of before we, if you're wanting to, it's all a mindset, how do these actions project self-love? How they project self-care? And, unfortunately, people that have those struggles with their body, whether it's overweight, underweight, aesthetically, whatever it is, to me, that's a reflection or illustration to just not really knowing, that you're not loving yourself or not feeling like you're worth it to love yourself,
Totally.
For you, give me your position on that. Did you go through, was that something that resonated to you during your journey of change? And is that something, because I really want to get into your book too and your blogging, what is it, that you find as your obviously it's faith, but what is it that people can look at in a tangible way to what, how to make some of the changes in their lives or change their perspective with their health?
Yeah, I think it's really important. For me, I really thought that the way that I ate and moved and the way that my body looked was my identity. And so that was really what I clung on to. I didn't fully believe that my identity was rooted in God, or that I was even worthy of having a different identity, because I was just this fitness girl. That's just who I was. I was Fitness Taylor. Like I wrote in my book, I was Fitness Queen Taylor. And so one thing I really had to come to terms with the fact, because I was so worried about losing this identity, when I quit the gym or when I was starting to eat again and nourish my body, who would I be? Because I had spent almost a decade in this place of, wanting to be this certain body weight and look a certain way and eat a certain way. And one thing I really just had to realize was that if it's something that you're worried that you can lose, it was never yours in the first place. So I really had to realize that if I could lose who I was, then that wasn't who I was. So I really had to kind of realize that. And I walked into the identity who God really called me to be and the person I actually like being.
Yeah. I like that. You say the person that you like being,
Yeah. Yeah. I actually enjoyed this person.
So connect me to the title when it says, when the reason why I laugh, because I tell people, I have said this, if you want the cookie, eat the cookie, because it's not about the cookie. Don't deprive yourself. If you're putting yourself in a place of self-deprivation or a position of vulnerability because you can't eat the cookie, if you want something, do it, but do it out of love, not fear. Don't do it out of fear if it's going to create X, Y, Z, but do it out of love. It's a balance with it. So talk about the book that you have out, and why you felt it's such a need, especially given the world that we're in right now.
Oh yeah. So, the book is called Eat the Cookie because, like you said, I also believe that sometimes you just need to eat a cookie and not a paleo, gluten-free, low-carb, cardboard cookie, a real cookie made with all-purpose flour and butter and sugar. Because like you said, you don't want something out of deprivation, because that never leads you to the results you want. You just end up feeling more restricted and, binging and restricting and all these things, which we could get into later or not. But so really that's why the book is called that. And the book is just really built on the overarching theme, the title, The Imperfectionist Guide to Food, Faith, and Fitness, is about breaking down perfection. Because I think in this world, especially it's more to women. Women are obsessed with perfection, whether that be our bodies, whether that be how we mother, whether that be X, Y, Z. We feel the need to be perfect. And then we break it down in the book, just through identity, through worth and value, and through insecurity and fear, and really getting to the bottom of those things so that we can find our perfection in God and know that only God is perfect, and he doesn't call us to be perfect, and he doesn't want us to try to find perfection because that's like us trying to become God, which he doesn't want.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. We're meant. We're not flawless beings. We're meant to, not we're meant to grow, be Christ like.
Yep. Yes, not be Christ.
Yes, and I mean that to me again, that going always having like that to go back to, when it comes to your religion and your faith. To me, that keeps us humble, but it keeps us steadfast. You know.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about, like when you mentioned earlier about the idea of perfection and just how it's just bored in our head, everything that we're around, movies, commercials, videos, whatever. It's this idea that you need to replicate that image to represent who you are, because that's good. There is this documentary. I'm going to throw it out there. I'm not sure if you saw it before, but it's called On My Shoulders, and it's a documentary about Barbie. So they talk about when they first created Barbie, it was meant to be a businesswoman. Barbie had suits on. And it's the idea of empowering women to, if you want to be a doctor or a lawyer, you can do those things. You don't have to be a housemaker. And then they changed owners. And then that's when Barbie started changing. She had smaller waist and she, everything. She had bigger breasts. And she created this idea of to look like a Barbie is to be perfect. And they had little girls, obviously buying these products. And one thing that shook me, and I could never forget it, they had have a Barbie, different Barbies, in their boxes. They had a Weight Watchers Barbie. So they had this Barbie that had a book in her hand and said Weight Watchers, and she had a scale by her foot. So if you're feeding this information to little girls and they're playing with this idea that they have to watch their weight, they have the scale is what's going to help to give them value. Because, if you're that number, then that creates value. Like it's already like ingrained in their way of thinking. And so, when I look at the Barbie industry and all that, that's just only just one piece of the puzzle why we think these ways. But just think about how like to be perfect, it's just so ingrained in our growing and what we're surrounded by, Yeah,
and social media is not helping anything.
Yeah. And even now with now we have Instagram, we have.
Oh gosh, I know. I'm like, I had an eating disorder at 13 and there was no Instagram. I can't imagine being 13 now.
Yeah. So within, how you've kind of have, been able to redefine yourself and loving yourself in this new skin, is there other ways besides the book and the blogging that you take the reins on helping other women, particularly in this, and helping them?
Yes, I mean, I have the book, and then I have obviously my website, which I talk about in social media, and then I do run like some group coaching programs that really help women just see themselves the way that God wants, even if they do desire to lose weight. Because I don't think it's necessarily wrong, but I think you have to look at the intentions behind and kind of root that in Christ. So there's just a couple other ways that I help women do.
Yeah. What do you see, when you're working with some of the women and the common language that they speak, or, what is it that you find in common with a lot of women that you work with this? Because you're pretty specific. So you have a specific audience, so you have a specific message. So what are some common things that kind of comes in and out of that?
I think a lot of them are just really trying to hate their bodies into changing. And I think, that never works. And a lot of them are just finding their value and their worth in culture and in the way that culture says that we should look. And they really struggle to separate this, to really like renew their minds and to even assess what they're thinking about and see if that's true and if those are things that God wants for them, and even giving their goals to God. And a lot of them think that, they'll only be worthy and valuable in the after picture, and they don't know how to accept and respect and love themselves throughout their health journey and understand that it's a journey, and that they can totally, like you said, love themselves throughout it and really focus on, their full health, body, mind, and soul. Yeah.
That's really good, because it's so true. And I think every woman, unfortunately has that, in the back of their heads, somewhere, just where they may not recognize it. I have this saying, I wrote a book called Play to Win Your Foods Fight. And one was about being the backseat driver of your lives, and how we, as women especially, we sit in the back seat and everything is more important. We'll get to us later. We'll deal with our stuff after them, or there wasn't enough time. So we'll just shift our life over until there is a time. And the whole idea is that we sit in the back seat of our lives. In another component, again, it goes back to feeling guilty if you're selfish, and because as women we're taught to be selfless, and if we do anything for ourselves we're not looking for I can go down the rabbit hole with that, but learning how to be in the front seat, but not just the front seat, but be in a driver's seat, and being okay with that, because when you're driving, you realize that you do have the you should drive your own vehicle. You should know the direction of your life and your health, and that's how you're able to bring other people along, right? So it's the whole concept of feeling that you have to put others first when it's okay to put yourself first. So I'm assuming that's probably one of some of the things that some of the conversations that come up with you and the women that you work with, helping to be okay with putting themselves first.
And like you said, I think some of them don't even really realize that is an issue that they're having until you kind of break down those walls and break through it.
Yeah. So is your group kind of the classes that you have, are they more of like a support group, or is it kind of like you're doing like talks to them and taking them through workshops? Like what's the setting of that?
Yeah. So it's kind of like an online course with a Facebook group. So it's like an 8-week course, and each week there's a different topic, and they learn and they can watch at their own pace. And then there's a Facebook group just for like accountability and support. And I'm in there like doing lives or answering questions that they may have or that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I know since faith is a big part, it's one of the 3 pillars. Do you find that other women come in there that may not have necessarily the faith, or is that something that you feel that they at least need to be open to? Like kind of how does that work when you may deal with people that may not necessarily believe in God or have the same type of faith?
So the program is a faith-based program. So you have to be a Christian just to get through the program, because I don't understand how to teach a woman who is not Christian how to find her worth and value not in Christ, because that's just where I find mine. So I'm not necessarily sure, you know what I mean, where to tell someone to go to find their worth and value if they don't have Jesus at the center. Then of course through the blog and Instagram, I talk with a lot of women who are not Christian, but my program is specifically for Christian women. Yeah.
So it's not, for clarification for those who are out there, it's not saying that, no, you can't be a part of it, but understand that's a part of it.
It's a huge part of it.
To feel the full gamut of everything that is built off of. That's pretty much being aligned with that is pretty much how you're going to be more successful through working with you. Yeah. Totally. And I think it's okay, standing firm, like where you stand with it, because it has to come from your heart. It's not a selling propaganda. It's not something that you say, these words have the same letter. They just kind of flow off the tongue better, so I'm just going to call it this. No, it's a foundational reason as to why you chose to make faith be a heavy part of it. Do you find that a lot of the women, like I'm thinking in my head now, I'm thinking about like, I'm sure that like you work with some churches or some, organizations that it sounds like it could be a great program to bring into some of these spaces.
Not yet, but I would love to. The program is fairly new. I just started it like a couple months ago. So it's kind of like in the baby stages of just growing, changing it, making sure it's like super amazing and effective. And then as it grows, I would love to kind of further it out into those spaces. Yeah.
Do you what about like the age gap, like generational, like where is it, do you see that more the older women or the younger generation, or it's kind of like 2 different like buckets? Like what are you seeing?
I see it everywhere. In the program I've got 20-year-olds and I got 60-year-olds. Like I think all women, like it's not a generational issue of not knowing your worth and identity and value. I think it's just something that we're all born with and we're all surrounded with, and all ages struggle with it.
Yeah, that's very true. And when I deal with, I have a private practice, and I work with people on the individual level, and the women, it's all about helping them to. That's why for what I do, I put in that love. Like in order to live a healthy life, you have to love yourself. Yeah. Because you have to think that you're worth taking extra time to buy the fruits and vegetables. You're worth the time and the effort. And I think that, again, when I'm talking with these women, it's always underlining reasons as to why they find themselves not feeling they can be successful, not feeling like, they're worthy. It's just so many things underneath. And I think it takes time. I think this is where faith comes into play, because you can help, faith, things can sit off of faith as far as, how we are as human and how we need to lean on God and like, put all our faith in him and, how can we live the life, of Christ. I think to me, it's just it's like your post, everything connects off of that. And, but I think that, when it comes to, the women population, it's like really like bringing home to them, like, if you're, being faithful to God is being faithful to your body. I think that's to me that could be a connection. When I'm thinking about when I work with my clients, I don't necessarily put, everyone knows I'm a Christian, but I don't necessarily embed it in there. But as soon as there is a conversation where it's appropriate, I'll bring it in. But I do think it's important to, have a specific target that you stand for and really help those women and bring the Christ component into it.
Exactly. So that's kind of niche down, you could say, into Christian woman.
Yeah, I think that's great. So I'm looking. So I got a few more questions. You mentioned okay, so you got body goals. Is there any other besides just the goal for yourself, for your body? Or is there any other pockets you tap into? Whether it's a person's career or their relationships or their parenting, is there any other areas that you focus on that you bring into play besides just the fitness and the food part?
I mean, obviously it's more in your body, but I also kind of focus on your overall health. So I do a lot of stuff about stress reduction, sleep, those kinds of things. I even work with setting realistic goals. It is all more in in our fitness goals. I don't want to say body goals because I really hate the term body goals. But just it's more in the health space. I don't really do a lot of career, maybe in the future. But right now that's kind of, I don't want to do all the things. I've tried to do all the things before and it's very exhausting. Trying to just do one thing really well.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find that, when you're having these conversations with these women that you're I think women, period, we all have a connection and we feel each other's pain because we see ourselves in them. There are moments when you're having these, where you're having maybe a group conversation with a group of women or one particular woman where you just kind of really you guys are really just vibing and connecting and you're relating to each other and you see that she is, coming to that place where she is starting to kind of come around to loving herself, or bringing in those components and the feel of that. Kind of tell us a little bit about some of those experiences.
Yeah, I mean, just because of what I've gone through with the eating disorder and just really, struggling with those kinds of things, it took me because I had the eating disorder and then I recovered and then I went through my 20s and kind of went back into it again. And so 10 years I was kind of struggling and not really being sick and tired enough of living in my own crap, for lack of a better term. And I really couldn't. He also then now seeing some of these women kind of getting tired of that and getting tired of living in the crap, for lack of a better term, that God doesn't design for them, and just seeing them, enter into freedom and seeing that they ate a cookie without feeling like the worst person in the world or without having to go to the gym for 10 hours and run it off and all these things that we compensate, or thinking that, trying to hate their body and to change and actually accepting their body, even if they do desire to change. It has been amazing because I think we said before, it's not about the food. It's about how getting rid of these control and getting rid of all these insecurities affects our life. Yeah. And allows our life to open up. So they're like, hey, I went on a date night and I didn't obsess about it. It's yes. It's all these little things that just make your life so much more full.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And I think that's so important. You said the word freedom. And I use the word liberation. You feel liberated. So it's all comes to the same point of just feeling free of just these negative conversations we have with ourselves, the way we seem to view ourselves, or it's just so many things that swirl around us. And I just think we just feel suffocated. And so when you feel suffocated, you feel you have to follow a rule to get out of that suffocation. When all I think it does is just continue to implode on you, because it doesn't allow you to be who you are. So you never get to see who you are. You're mimicking something else.
Totally.
And so when it comes to food, and this is my take, and tell me what your thoughts are about this. When we're taught to just jump into a system, and we have not put in consideration who we are, your food, your way of eating, your faith, your fitness, you are a part of that. So, which means that you're not going to have the same approach that someone else has. You're not going to deal with the same, challenges and opportunities that someone has. And so it's no cookie cutter way that this can go. So helping people to know that they're a big part of this route of, to
Yeah.
liberation. And I think that, again, you're taught you have to follow these rules, you have to follow this system to get to that level of success without you knowing that you are a part of it. And so putting yourself in consideration.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's kind of to go along with that. I think a lot of women like have all these desires and goals and whatever, and they don't even really understand why. Because like a big component of the thing I do with the women is like understanding your why. Why do you want to change your body? Like why? And they're like, I don't know, because I think I should. Like because society tells me to. And it's like we have all these stories that we're carrying around, and we don't even really think about why we have them. So it's really important to put yourself in there and think like, where is this message coming from, and why am I just condoning it without even thinking about it?
Yeah. And happiness doesn't come with a
Nope.
size. It doesn't come with a
Nope.
number on the scale. It comes with you learning who you are first and loving who you are. Because that's how once you learn about who you are, then you can love yourself more. And I think, again, as a Christian, it connects back up. It connects
Yeah.
that you are loved.
Yep.
And that's big because a lot of people don't feel that they're loved. And knowing
Yeah.
that, God loves omniscience, He's merciful. Like, how can you start forgiving yourself? He's forgiving you. How can you start forgiving yourself and start taking care of yourself and loving yourself? And I think that's just a really important messaging that needs to be incorporated. And I don't think people, again, you're not trained at. You're trained to
Yeah.
just close your blinders and take these steps and dare
Yep.
your happiness.
Yeah, no one understands that you can have happiness and all the things that you think you'll get in a smaller body in the body that they have right now.
Yeah. So, for you, you mentioned freedom is something that you want women to feel and to see. Where are you in your stages? Like how, obviously there's something in you that you want to share with others. What's freedom to you now that you're on the other side?
Freedom is just not obsessing about food. It's the ability to go for a spontaneous date night without having to be like, oh my goodness, how does this fit my plan? Or my husband plans a date night or like a date day. And usually I would say like, can we do it after the gym? And now it's like, I can say we can skip the gym, and just being able to honor my hunger and fullness cues. I still have fitness goals and health goals, and I think that's okay, but it's holding them with an open hand and not like, white knuckling onto them and realize and thinking that my health and goals are my life. It's my body and my health goals used to be my life, and now they revolve around my life, if that makes sense. Like my life is more important than those goals. I think it's just like you said earlier, the balance of both.
Yeah. And that's what freedom feels like for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Helping. And it's just totally different from what, again, what was impression upon you growing up. As we all have some sort of way that we're impressioned upon what happiness is, and learning that, that you just redefine that balance and don't put all your stock into, the mirror image.
Yep.
I know that you specifically work with women. Do you find that there are men that are interested or reading your work, or like kind of like taking it in regards to making it a part of their lives?
I mean, yeah, I had a couple men like read my book, which I was like, what? Because, if you read my book, it's like girlfriend this and girlfriend that. I'm like, why did you read my book? But I mean, obviously there's a need. So it's been kind of crazy to see that.
That's funny. Especially when you say girlfriend, like, okay, they're going to pass the word girlfriend and read. I mean, it must mean it's something of value that is universal. The fact that doesn't deter them from it, I'm sure you find that there's so many different people that are just struggling to be in their own skin, struggling just to think of every day waking up. I had a person I spoke to on the phone, and she said every day she wakes up scared of her health and concerned what she's going to eat every day.
No way to live.
And just think about just having that, first thing that pops up instead of just hearing the birds, seeing the sunlight, just being grateful, being able to just take in the moment. Your mind is already started off with a negative, or just thinking negative thoughts, and just think how that just perpetuates every day, and then you become desensitized to it, and then you don't even know that you're in that. So I'm glad that someone like yourself, maybe you were in that situation so you can help others. And
Absolutely.
and that way you can relate, you can connect their story or your stories, but you also have another story that they can, they'll have another story. So it's really great to
Yep.
have, like-minded people that their goal is to help others to love themselves and be better people. Quick question. When when you're doing your work, when you're writing your blogs, when you're writing your blogs, from the work that you have seen, from the work that you've been doing. From the work that you've been doing.
I said earlier, that woman that has experienced some kind of freedom, even if it's not like full freedom, but if she ate a cookie or she went for date night or she had a glass of wine without freaking out, like those are the things, like I'm just like, because I know like what it's like to freak out over a cookie or a glass of wine or something like that and think that you're the worst person. And just, I remember that feeling the first time I had it, and it, I didn't freak out, and it was just so like a breath of fresh air, and just like seeing that from someone else is just like, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is what the Lord has for me, and it feels amazing.
Yep, that's one of the reasons you're here for it. To
Yep.
to shine a light for others, and help them to see their own light. I think that's great.
Thank you.
What I want to do now is that people have heard, the work that you're doing, the different resources that you're providing. What are some ways that people can find you if they're interested in being on your Facebook group, they want to purchase the book, like all different things? It's kind of let us know how we can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so my website, like you said, is foodfaithfitness.com. And then on Instagram, I'm always on Instagram, it's foodfaithfit. And those are kind of the best two ways. I have a link to my book on the website and also in Instagram, and then everything else is kind of there too.
Okay. Oh, great. Well, I want to say thank you for coming on. I felt like, again, I just knew 30 minutes, I always feel like 15,
Yep.
which is a good thing because it means the conversations are good and they're fruitful. But I do appreciate you coming on and just standing strong as a Christian woman and just holding that to your heart as to what everything else resonates off of. And I think that's so great. It's so great because some people, they don't put that in the forefront of their lives. So I just commend you for that. Yeah.
Thank you for having me. It's a blast being here.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. For those who want to learn more about Taylor, go to her website, find her on Instagram. She has a couple of different programs for those on Facebook. So she got a lot of things going on. She also has a blog out. So just, find her, get connected to her some of the things that she's doing and figure out, how can you just eat that one, be okay eating that cookie.
Right. Preach.
Yes. So guys, thanks again. This is Rashonda Thornton, the Dietitian Against Diets. Remember, it's never about the diet, but the diet mentality. How can we create a relationship with food that reflects love for ourselves and being able to find that liberation that we also seek to have, and learn that it's not about rule setting. It's about taking care of yourself first and being in great connection with your food and letting it be a part of your life. Talk to you guys next week. A great conversation with Taylor. Definitely gave me some things to think about. I'm sure hoping that it gave you some things to think about as well. As we're rolling out of this particular podcast show, I want to highlight one of my podcast partners called Custom Foodscaping. Now, I like their company because they have a unique way of how they handle utilizing your space and still keeping nutrition and healthy living as a part of it. They're essentially, they like to start off saying, have your landscape and eat it too. And which means that means that this company is all about how to turn and transfer your garden and your land to something that's edible. And how this company does this? Well, they work with you. So they offer opportunities to help you to best use your garden or space. Whether it's residential, schools, hospitals, residents, they serve all different types of industries. Because there are tons of unused space around that can be transformed into beautiful food-producing landscape. What they'll do is they'll come in, provide consultation, design, and installation. And if you're curious and not really sure you're ready to take the next step, they provide educational workshops and courses to better prepare you to make the most out of your land. Learn more about them by going to www.customfoodscaping.com or follow them on Instagram at Custom Foodscaping. This is Dietitian Against Diets. Hope you guys have a great day.